All right. So, welcome everybody. I know we've still got a few classes that might be joining in, but I want to be respectful of Mr. Mockers' time here, and I want to start right at 1:30 on our schedule here. So we'll get going, and the others can always jump in when they get going. Michelle, this is truly an honor for you to have this opportunity to speak with these students, not just for a learning sense, but I think it's truly a historic moment, really, to be able to capture your voice and learn more about you as a person and as a human. And so we've got some other classes from around the way and some others joining in. And before we get into questions and getting to know more about you, Michelle, I want to start off with our lovely friend Deb, but not everybody in this room may know, or everybody in the Zoom may know who Deb is. So Deb, if you could introduce yourself and then also introduce a few words about Michelle, since you're the key to helping all this stuff come together, we'll go from there.
I had an idea to start a project where kids would meet someone from the World War II generation, hear the story, and then write and illustrate it for young readers. And we started with 3 books, and the reports that we got back from the teachers were amazing, that they thought kids were going to learn better about the war from these personal experiences told through the eyes of a child than they might from a textbook. So we got great input, so I just kept doing it. And actually, we are getting ready to publish our 120th book. So hundreds of kids have been involved in this process over the years, and we've recorded some amazing stories about World War II veterans, Jewish Holocaust survivors, all kinds of stories, but never a story quite like Michelle's. And I'm very excited. I've always admired the French Resistance, and it's exciting to me today to hear this amazing story that we're about to hear. So this is what I learned, is that Michel Mockers is an artist. He's a painter, he's a sculptor, a writer, and a video producer based in Princeton, New Jersey. His paintings are displayed in the United States and in Europe, and he has 2 books in the Library of Congress written in French. When he's not writing or painting, he's cooking with friends and family and hosting dinner parties and discussion groups surrounding global concerns. He was born in France and grew up in both Paris and the south of France. The United States has been his home for the past 40 years. So I'm excited to meet you finally, Michelle, and I'm excited that all these kids are meeting you along with us. So thank you so much for your time and for your story.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. And we want to make sure we maximize our time with Michelle here today. So Michelle, I know we have talked a little bit before yesterday with some questions we want to answer, but before we get into those questions, let's just start with, hello, how are you? How are you doing? And how would you like to introduce yourself to all these amazing students that are tuning in today?
Can I talk? Can you hear me?
We can. The floor is yours.
Okay, dear. So listen, I must say one thing. One thing is that I am in the United States since about now 40 years old, something like that, because I was commissioned, and I was commissioned especially by some churches and for paintings and restoring existing pieces of art. So I came here and I stay here. Here I am with you today.
Well, that's wonderful. We're glad that you're here. And so as we get going, do you want to share anything more about yourself, or do you want to go right into our first question today?
It's as you like, my dear. It's, you know, it's always very difficult to talk about yourself. Come on, some big laurels because I'm a Superman. I'm not a Superman. I'm just an ordinary man who has been placed by the circumstances, you know, in a situation where I was absolutely not ready to go to. But you have to adapt. And, you know, when you have some menace upon you, like I had at that time, the Germans, you know, we were absolutely not free. And I was in age to react, and I reacted. But I reacted like I can say not a regular one. I am not an officer in the French army. I am just a resistant. And it happens that I have been in charge of a lot of things that I did, but I was not prepared at all. So you have to invent. You have to go on. You have to risk. I risked my life several times, but you have to do it. Hey, come on. You must do it, and you do it.
I love that. And I think that's really important. I think one of the big things for us is to realize the context for your involvement. And I think as we continue to explore more about World War II, I know today we want to know, some more about who you are as a person, knowing we've got some time in an upcoming call to learn more about when you fought in the resistance. And so would it be okay if one of the students came up and asked one of our first questions for you?
Absolutely.
All right.
Who wants to ask me a question? A nice young lady.
What matters to you most in a relationship, like with friends and family?
I believe it's very simple. The one that is not bluffing with you, the one who is very sincere, the one who is very simple with you. And you will see in your life that you have people who declare that they are your friends and they are your friends on the side, and they say, oh, I am a good friend of so and so. But a real friend is somebody that you can count on and who will never say stupid things to you except the things that he thinks or do. And that is, let's say from the bottom of the heart, something like that. As soon as somebody bluffs, forget it. That's no good. And I had many occasions in my life to have people, oh, I am your good friend. Yes, I'm your good friend. But if I can keep you on the back, I bring you on the back, So you have to be very sincere. And a friend is somebody who is very sincere and does not tell you stories that do not exist. I don't know if I did answer the question to that.
You did a wonderful job. We have another question in this room.
Has there been someone in your life that has taught you something that has shaped you as a person?
You want to know who had an influence in my life? You will never believe, I will tell you the exact things. Because the monks, the Benedictine monks, in the 6th century, created, with every monastery, created a school to teach teachers that would teach the population which was going wild after the fall of the Roman Empire. So that school was made to educate teachers to the people. And it was very difficult to be admitted in some of those schools, which were regular schools with the government, regular schools, but it was very difficult to be admitted because there were very, very few students in the school. And I was admitted because my mother had a cousin who was a Benedictine in a very brand new, beautiful abbey in Calcutta in the south of France. But, in that school, you will never believe it. In that school, we had 3 hours of class a day. 3 hours, 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 hour after that at night, at 6 o'clock to make your duty to do that. But we had 5 teachers for 5 students. Can you imagine? So 4 years later, I was speaking Greek and Latin, fluently speaking Latin, But at the same time, I had 2 monks who taught me something. The cousin of my mother was a man who was publishing books, publishing books since the beginning, since the printing of the books. He could print a book and rewrite completely, make a completely a total book. Some of those books were big, we know, for those churches or whatever it is. And so I learned how to print, to cut, to bind. I know how to. After that, after the binding, sometimes on the cover, you were using several layers of different colors. You were making some golden letters. And how do you do that? It's very, very complicated. Simple, but if you don't know it, you will never make it. So I learned all that. So I learned a work that I did exist during my life, because I have been, beside all what the professor said that I have been officially a printer for several years. So I learned that from that monk. And from another monk, I learned something else. He was making stained glasses. So he told me, you will never do a good job if you don't know how to draw. So when I was going to him, he was putting an easel in front of me and give a pencil in my hand. And please, you draw that or that or that. He was giving me something to draw, flowers, whatever. But beside that, he taught me how to make stained glasses, how to cut the glasses, how to put them together, with lead. And so those two men had a fantastic influence in my life. They taught me how to work. They taught me that when you do a work, how to do it, put your mind in doing it, and doing it very nicely and very clearly. So that's the two men who had the most influence in my whole life. Because after that, I was a man able to take a job and start by the beginning up to the end of it if I could. That's it. That's very simple.
Just that simple, right?
So please, question me.
What values did your parents instill in you as a child?
That's a big question. That's a big question. My parents, I remember when I was 7 years old, I remember the lunch, for example, the time of the lunch. My father, my mother, my grandmother, who was the mother of my mother, and my grandfather, who was the father of my mother. So I remember very well the two people who, in fact, were my life of every day. My grandmother was one of the oldest existing French family. Her ancestors were supposed to have been killed in Jerusalem in the world 1000. So since that time, she was the last representative. And she was the last representative because my mother did marry a man who was not a noble man. So, but she was very, very nice, but she was at the same time very strict. She was, the discipline was the discipline. I could not behave like an idiot when I was at the table. And she was always very, very simple, but very precise. And I must say something which is strange. It's at her place when my parents saw that she was bad in Paris during the occupation. It was very difficult for her to survive and rent a little house in La Chapelle-Montmartin in the middle of France. And by accident, it's where I end up precisely during the war. And from where I I did what I did during the war. So that was the side of my mother. The side of my father was music. The Mockers was, in the old times, there were organ manufacturer in Alsace, in Colmar. And my grandfather, who was at the table, was the first prize with everything you can imagine for piano in the Conservatory of Paris in front of the biggest pianist of the time. And he was the winner of all the piano concours. So That was the two old people that I had at my table. I remember that very well. And my mother and my father and myself. So I had to behave rather carefully, not be completely stupid and make some jokes which were not good. So that was the ambiance, if you want, of the house. What do you want to ask me more? If you can ask me, you can ask me all the questions you want.
What was the happiest memory you had?
Huh? Tell it again, darling.
What was the happiest memory you had?
The happiest memory I have is an incredible memory, something that you believe would never happen. When we decided, my brother and myself, to fight the Germans, we took a coin and we put it in, of course, and the coin said my brother would go outside of France and I will remain in France. So he went through Spain, spent 9 months in jail in Spain, was at that time was bought. He was supposedly, he said, I'm a Canadian, because if I say I'm a French, they will kick me in the ass and bring me to France. So after 9 months, there is a man who came, he said, I am the representative of the Canada. I don't know if you're a Canadian, but we bought you for 1 bag of corn. That was the price of a man during the war in Spain. So he went to North Africa, he didn't like it. He managed to go to England, where he became an SAS, Special Air Service, in the service of Her Majesty, the Queen of England. So, and he was parachuted in France after the 6 of days. Their job was not to fight the Germans, but to embarrass the Germans, to try to remain, to stop them to go on. They learn how to use the locomotive, everything, to try to embarrass the Germans, not to fight them, to embarrass them to move. So that was my brother. I never saw him after the coin in the morning. When everything was finished, my boss told me, you go to Paris tomorrow, because I have to go to the ministry or what you have to have some papers or whatever it is. So as soon as I was supposed to go to Paris, I had plenty of people. There was no communication, no train, no buses, no cars, no nothing. So when people learned that I was going to Paris, I had, 100 people who wanted to come with me. So I took 5 people. They give me, I don't know where it was coming from, a Lincoln Zephyr, all brand new, the fish, fish tank, all brand new. So I took 5 people with me and we went to Paris. In the middle of the road, there was Orleans, and at Orleans, there was something that I'd never seen before, an MP. So I had to figure out that it was an MP. And he said, the bridge over the river has been destroyed. You must make 100 kilometers to find a bridge that passes over the river, and then you can go to Paris. I did that, and I passed the river, and the other side of the river, when I was ready to go to Paris, there was a group of soldiers, maybe 20 or 25 soldiers, all with red beret. We was trying, they were making a sign, they wanted to go to Paris, but they saw that it was absolutely no use to ask me that. The car was full, so I passed by, and I reached Paris. And in Paris, there was absolutely no communication at all. So I made the taxi for the 4 people that I was transporting with me. It took me about 2 hours. 2 hours later, I decided to go to my parents' apartment in the middle of, exactly the middle of Paris. So I went and I reached the street, and I take the street, and I knew exactly where my parents were. It was on top of a theater. So there was a big huge entrance for the theaters, and I was going up the street, and I stopped right in front of that door where we were living. I was not even stopped. I heard on my back a car stopping. You know, all the tires. So I looked in the back mirror and I saw a car, an old French Peugeot car. And a man come out of the car, rushed to my own window. I opened my window and he said, when your brother is asking you on the bridge above the war to take him aboard, can you take him aboard? We arrived, my dear, we arrived. 2 years later, exactly at the same seconds, 25 Rue Comartin. That you would have to do that in purpose, you would never succeed at doing it. We arrive exactly at the same minute. So that is, if you want, all of a sudden I saw my brother, you're not dead, we are not dead, blah, 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 blah. You know, kiss each other, but that was something absolutely incredible. 2 years later, we arrive exactly at the same time, 25 Rue Comartin. So that, if you want, is my most touching my heart, you know, because I did brother had become, and all of a sudden I become that he was alive, I was alive, and at the same time, exactly at the same time, we arrived to kiss each other 25 Rue Comartin.
It's simply incredible how life works that way, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, but that's the type of thing you would never believe. You would make it in purpose, it would not succeed. You know, you will not be at the same time, you would exactly at the same time. I was not stopped. I heard the screech of the car in my back. He stopped at the same time I stopped. 2 years later.
That's incredible. I can definitely see why that would be the happiest memory for you. Thank you for sharing that. And I know we've got some more. I want to make sure we've got time too for we've got another set of classes.
What is the most important lesson you've learned?
In my life, I learned one lesson, my dear. You are never the smartest. If you believe that you're the smartest in life, you know everything, you just forget it. You will always find somebody who is smarter than you and will give you a lesson, because you will try to figure out that you are the smartest, and he will demonstrate that you are not the smartest. So I learned that in life. I learned that you must not show or make believe that you are the smartest, that you know everything, because you don't know everything. That's it. Very simple.
Good advice.
Yeah. What is your daily life like at the age of 100?
What you do at the age of what I do at the age of 900 or 100, excuse me, of 100, I'm talking to you. You see that? At 100, I can talk to you. I'm not completely gaga. So I can talk to you and eventually answer more or less good, but I can answer you when you ask me question. What I do, my dear, I still paint. I still work exactly like if I was, I don't know, 40 years old. Of course, my legs are not 40 years old, but my mind remains 40 years old. I can talk to you today. You see that? So this is what you do at 100. You still work in what you are used to work. So that keeps you young. I don't know for how long, but it keeps you young.
All right. So I think we've got a little bit more time. Do we have any? Michel has shared with us some really powerful stories and ideas. Do we have any follow-up questions or other things that we want to know more about? So maybe we can start here at Forest Grove, or if Bridgeview or Burlington, if you guys have a question, just bring a student up to the camera, and then we'll take turns. That'll help me indicate the next question to ask. And so, and teachers, if you have questions, you can ask questions too. And so, any questions at this point?
Nobody has any question? Come on.
What is one of your proudest accomplishments in life?
Aha. Oh, you're asking me of my life? Come on. I am of my life to everybody. Yeah. You know, you have in your life, especially my life starts to be a little long, you have several occasions to give the best of yourself. Depends on what you do, but also depends on what you do on the side. So, for example, I am basically a painter. I wanted to be a musician, but it was too late to start. I didn't want to play music. I wanted to compose music. But when I tried to go to the School of Music in Paris, they say, "Oh no, you start to get too old." So instead of music, I went into painting. But you know, you do only one. You do what you feel that you should do. But the circumstances can interfere in your life and oblige you to do things that you were not expected to do. You know, I was not expected at all to go in the war. As I told you, I was a student for 4 years. I was a student in a abbey, Benedictine abbey. After that, I went to school to finish I had to go for 2 more years. So I went to a school outside of that in Saint-Nazaire. It was a very nice school, but I never been able to finish my studies because the Germans invaded France. And my father said, "You don't stay where you are, you go away." I don't know how the German will behave. He had he went through the war, the First World War. So he said, "I don't trust the German, so please go away." So I never finished my studies. But you see, you have things in your life that are absolutely unexpected and that you must react according to what happens to you. And sometimes you cannot preview what happens to you. I was a very happy young man. You know, I was in a good position. My father was director of the Casino de la Boule in summertime. I even was at 16, not even 17 years old. I was flying and making aerobatics with a pilot of the World War I, and on a small plane, you know, a two-seats plane. But all that stopped all of a sudden. The German came in. And the German coming in, you never knew how they were going to behave. And my father said, "Go." And I went. And, so, you know, completely unexpected. I did not wait for that in my life. And then after that, I was on my own. And you know, I could tell you the whole story, but I was on my own all by myself. Nobody to teach me what to do. So I had to discover by myself how to survive, which I did.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we.
Yes, you know, the war is not a place to enjoy yourself. And I had several times, I had the occasion, oh boy, you asked me to go back in all my memories. And, you know, it happens that I became in charge of more than 1,800 men. I had to provide those 1,800 men with, sometimes when they needed a big amount of food or whatever, or an automobile or whatever, I was provided them with that. I had the money of the resistance. I was in charge of the money of the resistance. And beside that, I was providing them through a British mission which I was part of that British mission. That's another story. But I was providing them with the armaments, with all the arms and ammunition and all that. So several times I have been in front of, I should have killed. And several times I did not kill. I could not. I remember once a German, an officer, who was invading precisely La Chapelle-Montmartin, where I was, with 60 men. They were retreating, but they were invading with 60 men. Instead of killing that man, I invited him for lunch. And we discussed. And incredible. You know, you have some stories which are incredible. That man told me, oh, I am not really a military. I am providing all the hospital and the man who provide all the material for the hospital and things like that. And I have been the master of the casino of La Baule, where the soldiers, it was on the beach, it was in the sun, where the wounded soldiers, German soldiers, were coming to, you know, to be repaired. So, and I tell him, you don't know, because when he said it was very well organized, and the kitchen was a very good, nice kitchen. And I say, yes, you don't know that when you were going to the kitchen, there was a wall on your left. He said, yes, there was a wall on my left. I say, you don't know that all the good wines of the casino were behind that wall that we built at the last minute before the German could come in. So, you know, instead of killing that man, I could have killed him. I was in position to kill him. I invited him to lunch and to talk. He was a teacher, an English teacher, and not an English mathematician he was. So what do you want? You cannot have, on some other occasion, you have somebody who would shoot at you, you shoot at him. That's it. So one or two times, I found myself in position where I just have to shoot, and I shoot, and they shoot at myself, and I swear to you, once in a field where a whole truck of German were firing at me, when I talk to you, I can hear the bullets on my ears, zzz, 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 all the bullets. And I was running in a field of potatoes who were about the size of my hand, those potatoes. And not one of those bullets did touch me. I cannot understand. Today, when I talk to you, I cannot understand how I have not been reached. Come on, I heard all the bullets, no one touched me. But you know, it was permanently like that. You will never know. I was obliged to travel from one group of Maquis to another group of Maquis, and you.
The body of the young man is there.
And I'm losing my mind. I don't know exactly where you know, you find yourself, you know, in such a, it was not a real war where you're on one side and on the other side and you kill each other. It was a war where you were many times you were like a rabbit. We were shot at by the Germans. And I have been shot at several times. And I don't know, once more, I cannot understand how I had to be alive to talk to you tonight, because I hear all the bullets on my ears and not one touch me. So listen, I can talk to you tonight. What do you want to know more, dear?
Well, Michel, first, before we ask another question, I want to say thank you for sharing. It truly kind of hits a pause in my heart, and I think we can feel your emotions. And so we appreciate your vulnerability and sharing. I know that that's not easy, and to go back in that, and I think it's something that for a lot of us, we can never understand what it is you went through or the other people during that time. But I think by sharing your story just there, I think that idea of getting to know somebody and sitting down and having lunch and engaging in conversation can really create some powerful ties and for us to get to know one another where maybe we think there are differences. And so I think it's a good moment for all of us just to take a second. We appreciate you sharing that. We know that that's not easy. So I didn't want to just move on to another question because I know that comes with a lot of heartfelt memories for you.
You know that the war was something absolutely unexpected in my life. I mean, in everyone's life, it's something absolutely unexpected, and you never know if you are going to go through or not going to go through. But I am not tonight. We are not going to talk about the war, so I don't want to talk about the war. So the war was something absolutely unexpected, and that I had to go through, and I went through in a very strange way of going through. But I don't want to talk about the war tonight. We're not talking about the war.
I agree with you. So I know we've got another question there, but I know earlier you've referenced now several times that you are a painter. I have to ask, is that painting behind you one of your art pieces?
Yes, that's one that yes, you can see it in my back. It's the 4 Semaines of the Apocalypse. I don't know why I painted that. I painted that something like, I don't know, 30 or 40 years ago. So it's not something because of the circumstances today, but it's something that I painted at that time. And that is typical of my manner, if you want. I have tried to reconstitute the manner of working of the main painters of the Renaissance and after the Renaissance, because when you go and see their works, you can see that their works, some of them have been painted yesterday. When you see some of the modern paintings, that doesn't belong. They don't stay because the painter doesn't know how to use the materials. So you become a painter without being really a painter, So I have tried to reconstitute the work of, a man of the, let's say, 17th century. And so it's why, at the same time that I made a classical subject, or Semaine of the Apocalypse, but it's painted exactly like if it was painted on the time of Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. It's the same method of them. At the same time, means that to paint that, I need several months. I let it dry and I work again.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
To change. Oh my dear, you are asking a very difficult and very profound question. Come on, is your mind working like that? Congratulations, because you're asking me maybe the most difficult question to answer to. Oh boy, I don't even know. I don't know. To answer you very, very frankly, I don't know.
And that's the perfect answer.
That's
the perfect answer. Yeah. We will respect that for sure. Yes, we've got a student trying to ask, but his audio wasn't coming through. So give us 1 second here.
Please take your time. At my age, you can take your time. But you see, I'm not too bad, eh?
No, you're doing wonderful. Sharp as a tack.
Yes, dear. It's. I don't talk about the war, but the war is an occasion to decision.
Right. Right.
He wants to ask me a question.
Yep. Go ahead, Bridget. I think we can hear you now.
If I want to be back,
if you could go back to any age, what age would you go back to and why?
That's a question. Because, you know, you can find good things at any age, you know. so it's difficult to answer. That's very, very difficult to answer. Because when you consider all your life, of course, you could have done this, you could have done that, and why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? So I don't know if it's possible to answer his question. It's a very smart question. I don't know. To tell you the to tell you the truth, I'm not sure that I can really answer with being sure of what I say.
I think that's perfectly fine. Sometimes I'm not sure what I want to do or what day I want to be or any of that good stuff. So I completely get it. I can't imagine you have a lot of memories. Probably good that any given day would be a good time to go back to, but there's no better time than the present. So that's also important to take as well. Michel, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've had you here for 45 minutes, and I know some school days are coming to a close. And so I'd like to wrap this session up so we've got some time to reflect and capture our notes and just kind of talk through some of the really powerful and insightful things that you've shared. And so I'd like to just personally thank you. And I know all these students and all these classes here are so thankful for this opportunity to be able to chat with you today. And I know it's going to give us an inspiration to continue to learn more about you as we dive into your story. And I think we've got to do some learning about stained glass. We've got some learning to do about your painting. We've got lots of new things to learn about
You're
you.
very nice. You're very nice.
We're very excited.
You're very nice. But I should say that instead of you, it's me who should tell those students what I think of them, because it's wonderful. For me, it's absolutely wonderful that young people, like the school that I see in my screen, that young people are asking questions to an old guy like me. And so, and even when I talk about the war and all that, you know, it's wonderful for the old man to talk to young people and say, hey, guys, you are asking the right question and go on, please. Go on carefully with your mind, you know, don't try to tell stories. Be very simple and go on very simply, and you will succeed.
I love that. I think that's a perfect note. And Deb, I see your video's on. And so before we kind of wrap this up, be respectful of time. Do you have any closing thoughts or words, Deb?
I'm so thankful that you were here today, Michel. I just really enjoyed hearing from you and seeing you, and more importantly, all these kids seeing you. So thank you.